Hello YouTubers, Reloading Bench back with you once again. And as you can see, we have a little bit of stuff on the bench. I would call it a total computer setup minus a monitor. And we also have a box, so you can probably guess what's in the box because it's related to this. So about 3 years ago, back in 2021, I decided that I was never going to get caught off guard. And I actually made a video about this back then. I was never going to get caught off guard with a non-functioning PC. Whether that be to a hard drive failure, some component failure, you name it. You know, your primary single PC, and people say, oh, you always got to have your data backed up. Okay, yeah. But if you don't have another PC, you're kind of screwed. So I had a problem with a PC, and I decided never going to get caught again. But I didn't want to go out and buy a fancy PC, so I wanted to get what I would call a backup PC. And it was right around the time where a lot of these mini PCs were taking off. And this particular version, I think this was called the Larkbox or something like that. Yeah, Larkbox by Chuwi. So I saw a recent update to these. Not this particular brand, but the whole mini PC and the speeds and feeds and all that good stuff. And my son had just recently built a new PC, and he was asking me, hey, do we have any copies of Windows 11? I'm like, never touched Windows 11. I didn't even want to jump up to Windows 10. So I didn't even know Windows 11 was out. In the 90s, I was a big technology fan, following all the latest and greatest, salivating over new releases, beta, alpha code. Now I could care less. I'm too old and I don't care. It just doesn't float my boat anymore. It's necessary evil. You know, everything's online. So I went ahead in August of 21 and bought some of these little Chuwi PCs. And the specs on this little box was, comes with 6 megabytes of RAM, 128 gigabytes, 6 gigabytes of memory per se, RAM, 128 gigabytes of internal storage. It was an Intel Celeron quad core, 2.7 gigahertz, and it came with Windows 10 Home. Had 4K streaming. You know, you can see the USB ports, 2 of which, you know, I have used. So and then this USB-C is actually for power, not for data. And then the HDMI. So some would say, oh, there's limited expansion. And I would argue that, you know, then you got headphones for external speakers, or a jack for, headphone or speakers. Yeah, there's limited expandability. Here's a 256 meg, you know, micro SD. You can, I have this keyboard and this mouse hooked up to these particular 2 USB ports. I could just as easily as put this USB hub in there and then attach to everything else. So there's my expandability. You know, here's a terabyte of SSD storage. So, and you know, little small form factor keyboard, so it doesn't take up a lot of space. So if I don't need this PC at any one particular time, you know, look at the amount of space it takes up. That is it. That's it for the whole setup. So what got me interested and what's in this box is a new version of this, but not from this company. So this particular device I purchased in August of 2021. I bought the PC, which is $179. I upgraded the SSD M2 inside of it to 256 gigs, and I put a 256 gig micro SD. So here's a half a terabyte, you know, plus another terabyte. Again, for a backup PC, you know, emergency kind of thing, just to be able to get online or to get back online if my core PC failed. This was a great path for me instead of buying, you know, another laptop or something along those lines. And the total out the door, before tax obviously, was $260. So maybe 280-ish, 290 with tax. And that was a good deal 3 years ago. So I was a happy camper. Obviously the keyboard and mouse I think were like another 30, 35, maybe $40 total. So let's call it 300 bucks out the door. Well, fast forward to today. I went to recently, I turn this on every few months, download all my updates for Windows, my antivirus, all that, just keep it up to date file-wise. Well, Windows will say, hey, or Microsoft say, hey, this isn't compatible with Windows 11. I could care less, honestly, about Windows 11 per se as an operating system. But, just like the iPhone, there'll come a time where, your app is not compatible. You need to upgrade, and then you go to upgrade, and it says your iPhone OS is not compatible for this upgrade, and then you're like, oh, I got to get a new phone. So I have this as a backup. But that got me thinking, what are the new speeds and feeds? So I went out and I found newness in that space, and I wanted to see what 3 years of technology has provided me. So I opted to pick up the GMK Tech, and that's what we will be unboxing today. That's some serious plastic. All right, let's see what we've got in the box. And these are all over the internet, but I'm comparing it to my Chuwi, my Larkbox. So this thing is called, it's just called the GMK Tech Mini PC. And this is, I'll read the speeds and feeds because I'm doing a direct comparison. Wow, that's big. That's freaking big. I was not expecting it to be that big. Holy moly. That's huge. This, I wouldn't call this a mini PC. I would call this I'm liking this better than this already. And I'm glad Amazon offers me my free return, because I don't know if I'm going to keep this. All right, this looked more like this, when people were holding it in their hands. So this is more like the Nook, the Intel Nook. Yeah, I don't know if this is a keeper. I wasn't expecting that big, and that's what she said. Sorry, bad humor. Okay, what do we have here? We've got a big ass. Okay, so this is HDMI, and it looks like a VESA mounting. That's very unusual to get an HDMI cable, especially when I show you the speeds, feeds, and prices. So the speeds, feeds, and pricing of this particular PC are kind of cool. I don't like that size. That's a BMF. I love this little size. I love this little thing. Yeah, not too thrilled about that. That might not be a keeper. Big giant ass power supply too. Not that that matters, because that's, out of sight, out of mind. Yeah, that's big. This is pretty big. It weighs next to nothing. In fact, God, they almost seem like they weigh the same. This feels cheesy, thin, plasticky, meaning hollow. This is quite dense. So, when you look at what it has to offer, no built-in Ethernet here. I could do wired Ethernet over USB, whereas this has gigabit Ethernet, it has HDMI, it has power. So you've got 2 HDMIs, so multiple monitors, wired Ethernet, USB 3, a lock, audio, more USB ports than the Larkbox. So, the need for this isn't so great. But yeah, this is a BMF. This is a big mother. Wasn't expecting this big. Yeah, that's kind of, and it looked black online as opposed to this gray. So I don't know if that's deceptive or not. Whereas, this is black. Very easy to see. Love this size. I'm really impressed with this. This one might be going back. I'm not wowed by this. I'll turn it on and see what the speeds and feeds are. And speaking of the speeds and feeds, let me read those to you, because this is one of the enticing purchase reasons to go after this particular device, which You ever notice things don't ever want to go back in the boxes? I will put that off to the side because that's not important. This is probably, you know, your quickie instructions, trying to be Apple Mac-like. Okay, I don't speak that language, so hopefully it's in English on this side. Yeah, there we go. Tribute to innovation. Yeah, a lot more Chinese than English, that's for sure. Safety warning. I mean, it's a computer. Technical specs. Plug it in, turn it on. That's about the extent of this. Plug it in and turn it on. So this is useless packing material. All right. So again, little disappointed in the form factor. I was thinking it was going to be much smaller. I'm going to have to go back and look at other YouTube videos and see if that is the case. But what surprised me, again, I like that better, was the speeds and feeds of the Chuwi. Again, 6 gigabytes of memory, 128 gigs of storage, quad core, Intel Celeron, again, built-in Wi-Fi, 2 USBs. I guess there was a VESA mounting kit that came with it. I have no idea where that would be at this point, 3 years later. But again, this is 3 years ago. So what does 3 years get us? Well, apparently things aren't shrinking size-wise, but they are shrinking price-wise. So that was $260. This out the door was $231.51. That was my total. So it was listed for $239, so $240. Shipping was free. There was a $30 discount offered for purchase for this particular version, and that brought my total to $210 before tax, then tax almost $22. So out the door, this was $231 with all the speeds and feeds. And the speeds and feeds of this comes with Windows 11 Pro, whereas this was Windows 10 Home. Again, I don't really care about the OS, but you know, if you had to buy the license, that costs something. This comes with 16 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM. Again, this came with 6, so almost, you know, this is, I was going to say almost 3 times, so 10 gigabytes more. This is also a 1 terabyte PCIe M.2 internal storage, so this was 128 gigabyte. So 4 times the storage in this model than in this model standard. And then also comes with dual HDMI instead of 1, USB 3.2 instead of USB 3.0. This has Wi-Fi 6. This is Wi-Fi, I'm going to assume Wi-Fi 5. It just says Wi-Fi beat. Yeah, it just says dual Wi-Fi. And let's see, and built-in Ethernet. This has no Ethernet. So for the speeds and feeds stock, this is a much better deal. So again, the wonderful thing about technology, I wish this was true for housing and cars and everything else, food, you name it. The only thing technology does is get better and cheaper. You know, you get more for your bang. Cheaper relative. So maybe price comparable. The two are price comparable, but when you look at the configurations, this is a much beefier box. You know, almost 3 times the internal memory, 4 times, another 3 times, 4 times the internal storage, more expandability in terms of USB, double the USB, double the HDMI. So I mean, there's a lot there, but it's also, you know, 4 times larger. So, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 3 times larger. Yeah, let's go almost 3.5 times larger. So it is a bigger footprint, but I will hook this stuff up. I will turn it on. I will see if I'm wowed by the speeds and feeds of what this can do. Again, good to always have multiple sources of compute power, as well as storage power. You know, the 321. What is it? 3 copies on 2 different types of media. And I think one is for every data type. So, you know, if you've got those, you know, family memories on, you know, DVDs or even VHS tapes that you need to transfer over to digital, I wouldn't keep family memories on one digital component. I'd have it on, probably have it on spinning disk. I'd probably have it on SSD. I'd probably have it all over the place, because we all know that media degrades over time. Whether that's, again, spinning disk. It's not if a disk will fail, it's when a disk will fail. So all of these components will fail over time, and that's why having redundancy, again, I've got 2 of these, is good. But these are also 3 years old, so they work fine. They're slower now, because when you've got, I can't imagine how large Windows 11 is to install. In fact, you know, when I log into this and find out what remaining storage is left from the terabyte of SSD, that will tell me all I need to know, minus, you know, formatting size, maybe losing 5% to formatting. That will tell me the footprint of, I'm guessing 800 plus gigs, maybe 850 is usable on this thing. But again, it is expandable. I'll see how loud it is. I'll follow this up with my, am I going to keep it or does it go back? But man, this is much bigger than I thought it was going to be. Much, much, much bigger. So surprise, surprise, surprise. Brownie points for everyone know where that phrase comes from. Surprise, surprise, surprise. Oh my golly. Yeah. So we'll power it up, see what it does. More to come. Hello, YouTubers. Reloading Bench back with you again, and we're going to call this a redo. Actually, no, it's not a redo, because we're not doing it over. We're going to call this a part 2. And if you recall, this was from 2021. This little Chuwi box, speeds and feeds back in the day. 128 gigs of storage, 6 gigs of memory, an old Intel Celeron, some decent ports in terms of 1 HDMI, little power button, SD card, audio, charging via USB-C. I think I mentioned HDMI, and then 2 USB 3 ports, 3.0. And that cost me $260. And this was my emergency backup PC. I was very happy with it. About a week ago, I turned it on and spent the day updating it. So it's current. Then I thought, you know what? Because of my son, as I said in the previous video, building a Windows 11 box, I didn't realize Windows 11 has been out for 3+ years. And this box, you know, anytime you do a Windows update, it'll say, this box, this PC is not compatible with Windows 11. So I thought, in order to stay current, so I'm not surprised trying to install like TurboTax next year. Oh, this won't install on, you know, this version of Windows or whatever. I decided to go down the path of updating with a newer version. So cheaper money, $230 versus $260, double the specs in terms of memory, 16 gigs with a terabyte of storage, SSD. So I thought, wow, that's great value for the money. And then as you saw when I opened it, this thing was big as hell. It wasn't this little mini PC. It was a monster, big old nuck. So back it went. I decided I'm not doing this. So I went to plan B, and I thought, all right, maybe this is apples and oranges, because this is size-wise, not so much spec-wise, but size-wise. Pricing-wise, apples to apples. Specs, kind of apples to apples. Size, definitely apples to oranges. So I decided, all right, let me find a closer apples to apples. So I ordered this, and this is exactly how it arrived. That's why I've taped over my identifying info. This is how it was sitting on my porch, just like this. No box, or no shipping box. So they use the original box as a shipping box, which I think is really shitty. But, you know, it is what it is. So I'll clean this off, and we will do an opening of this, and then I'll talk about the speeds and feeds. Back in a minute. That was a shit ton of labels. Literally label after label after label, to the point where it was even melting the plastic off. Same serial number, whatever. But yeah, that was a lot of labels. Sticky. All right, so this mini PC has to be smaller than the GM K Tech. A bold attempt is half success. Now let's see how bold this attempt is. Okay. There's our USB-C. Oh, it's very Apple-esque. Reminds me of the old Apple. Kind of cool. I'll say that's a win. That's nice. And I'm going to guess this is 1.5 amps. Output, input 1.5, output 12 volt, 3 amp, 36 watt. So maybe it can be used for this one. I'll have to look at the speeds and feeds of that. Okay, so already, so it's bigger by that much. I'm going to say it's 10% bigger. And that's nice that they include the HDMI cable. This did not include an HDMI cable, so that's kind of cool that they put the HDMI cable in there. I will give them that. Oh, this is foam as opposed to cardboard. That's a nice touch. Very nice, I might add. A little nicer wrapping than the GM. Okay, it's very shiny. So this is blue. That's black. We've got power, we've got audio, we've got 2 HDMI, 1 gigabit Ethernet, 1 USB 3.2, I think, and 2 up front with the power button. And then obviously the very glossy, I don't know if there's a cover on that, Intel inside. That's like a freaking mirror. All right, so from a size point of view, putting them side by side, there is a difference, clearly a difference. This is still reasonably small. This is excellently small. So I'm not going to say bad things about this because the GMK Tech was freaking huge. I did not like that footprint. So I did take a hit on some of the speeds and feeds. So let's talk about, so we're at 7 centimeters by 6. So, and I'm going to say they're the same height. So 1 centimeter difference on each side, 1 centimeter difference. Not huge. So it's within reason. So we have the speeds and feeds and the pricing. So the pricing came in significantly less. So I'm going to call this apples to apples. Maybe this is a Granny Smith and this is a Washington apple or some other flavor apple. The speeds and feeds, the specs, the sizes are very comparable. So this particular unit, when it was purchased in August of 2021, came in at $260 because I added, so the original unit was $179. I added another $256 on the SSD to give me a total of half a gigabyte. Actually, no, less, because this came with 128 plus 256. So what is that? Just under 400 gigabytes of storage. And that was, again, total of 260. So the speeds and feeds on this came in at 176. So from a machine to machine point of view, 179, 176, very almost identical. But the speeds and feeds on this for my 176 it's an N100 running it up to 3.4 gigahertz, has Windows 11 Pro. This had Windows 10 Home. So Windows 11 Pro, 12 gigs of memory versus 6 gigs, so double the memory, and 512 gigabytes of micro or NVMe SSD storage, where this had 128. So for significantly less money, I have almost the same specs in terms of storage, but bare machine to bare machine, for almost identical prices, you're getting twice the machine in terms of potentially performance, which I'm not going to worry too much about. I didn't buy this for performance. It's an emergency backup PC, so I'm not going to run Cinebench and all those other performance-related applications. But to double the memory and as well as the storage, and again, I did pick up additional memory and storage for this one. So this one, I added a 256, so I swapped out the 128 and put 256 in. This comes in at, no, that was the, no, I take that back. So I didn't do anything with memory. I did storage. I added 256 gigs of internal SSD and then 256 gigs of the micro SD. So I have half a terabyte of storage. This comes standard with 512 gigabytes of storage. So the storage footprint on both of these is identical, but I have an empty SSD to add more storage, and you can upgrade. Take these 4 screws out, and you can upgrade the SSD to, where's the power? I'll do power to power. You can upgrade the SSD to, I want to say, I want to say you can do a terabyte SSD on the upgrade. So this to me was a better apples to apples. I'll turn this on, I'll install my, my software protection stuff. What do I run? Spybot for keeping malware off. It comes, I'm sure, with Defender. Other, antivirus. I can't remember off the top of my head what I use, but it's a freebie, lifetime freebie. So I'm going to say that this was a better deal than this. Than this. What did I save? 30, 60 bucks ish. This had better speeds and feeds, 16 gigs of memory, a terabyte of PCIe storage. But again, these are not for performance. These are for emergency. Oh my God, my system's, I've got malware, I've got ransomware, I've got a failure in an electronic component, something's not working. So, could I have gone down the laptop path? Sure. I don't want to spend that kind of money, and I don't want to have that kind of device. So this type of compute, almost the same weight, is, in my opinion, the way to go. So good stuff. And I'll probably put, a thumbs up if everything went well in terms of booting it up, seeing how it's running Windows, and all those wonderful magical things that software provides us. So happier with this purchase as an upgrade to this or a jump into the Windows 11 space. So that is it for today. We will make this the last segment of this particular mini PC, this little cube. It does have a little protective covering, which I will not remove. I discovered years ago that I have an affinity for cube-shaped PCs. So this started probably almost 24 years, right around the turn of the millennium. Whenever the Mac G4 Cube came out, the little plexiglass cube, that was my first cube. Still have that. I still have the plastic wrap on that G4 Cube. Mint condition. I also have, as you recently saw, I have a couple of, well, not this, but a couple of these Chuwis, a little bit smaller than this. And in between the Mac G4 Cube, which has been upgraded to the hilt, but doesn't even compare to this in terms of processing power now. I picked up a ProLiant, what was it called? ProLiant G8, I think it was. It's a cube. And I'll show pictures of these because I think it's funny that my cubes went from small to big to small to big. So we're on the yo-yo of cubes. But I wanted to do a follow-up on this for a couple reasons. One, I hooked it up, as you can see, connected my USB mouse and keyboard. And then I turned it on. And the first thing I did was let it spend a handful of hours doing Windows updates, because Windows 11 shipped in 2021 and it's 2024 right now. So years of updates, and boy, did it take a long, long time. You know, big files. And I think the footprint on Windows on this system is like 35 gigs or around there, 35 to 40 gigabytes, which I think is astronomical when you consider what, Windows 286 and Windows 3.0, I think, shipped on a handful of disks, 144 megabyte disks, floppy disks, which aren't really floppy. They were more like hard disks. But in any case, lots of space for the OS. I did all the updates, and then I was doing some personalization, and I saw that, oh, your system isn't activated, Windows activation. So I thought, oh, no problem, because this ships with Windows 11 Pro. So, and what's cool is, I was looking at other mini PCs. If it doesn't say an OS, it's not shipping with an OS. So, and that's fine if you have an OS that you want to put on, like Linux or any other x86 based OS. But trying to install an OS on a system that doesn't have anything is easier said than done, and not for the faint at heart. But in any case, this had Windows 11. I turned it on. I did all the updates, walked away, came back, walked away, came back. Probably 4 to 5 hours worth of updates because I wasn't really paying attention, and I'd go visit it and I'd do the update. I went to activate, and it said unable to activate. Hardware has changed on this PC. Now, if you look at the fine print that isn't included on this cut sheet but is online, it tells you that it comes with Windows activated, which technically that's not true, because it would have already been activated, so there would be no need to activate. So I wouldn't call that quite accurate. So it still needed to be activated. What I should have done, or my first thought was, what I should have done is the first thing instead of update is activate. But in any case, I didn't. I ran all the updates, and then I was unable to activate. I went through the troubleshooter, which is a waste of time. I then had to reach out. I reached out to Amazon, and they're like, "Oh, we'll replace it or refund you." And I'm like, "Nah, let's not go there right away. There's no point. I want the PC to work, and activation shouldn't be a big deal." So after talking with Amazon, I thought, "Oh, let me talk to Microsoft," and so I went through all the hoops and account creations, and I hate doing that stuff. And then you call them, they want every piece of it. What's your name? What's your email? It's all about data collection. I hate that stuff. And as I was talking to the Microsoft person, not in the U.S., so second language, they kept misspelling my last name, and I'm like, "You're missing like 5 letters. I've spelled it for you multiple times." And they kept coming back with their own spelling, and and then when I was like, "God, you just don't listen," and they got offended and hung up on me. So I'm like, "Oh, okay, got to play nice." So I called back. I got the same person, ironically, and she walked me through a bunch of stuff, only to tell me, with some command line parameters, because by then I was looking online on how can I activate, and I was searching through command line scripts and whatnot. And she had me run a few command line scripts, and she's like, "Yeah, there's no product key on this PC, so there's nothing. It's never been activated because no product key exists." And she's like, "Yeah, just enter the product key." I'm like, "Well, it didn't ship with a product key. They said it was activated." And she said, "Yeah, there's no product key here, so you might want to talk to the vendor." I'm like, "Okay, thanks for your help." So I reach out to through Amazon, the contact seller, and within 3 hours and 15 minutes, which to me is beyond amazing for an Amazon seller to respond within 3 hours. And we're talking evening time. So late afternoon, I think I made the inquiry late afternoon, like right around dinner. I need the product key code for this particular purchase for Windows 11 Pro. And when you look on, again, their fine print, it says product comes activated. If it doesn't, if there's a problem with activation, reach out to us and we'll provide you a key. So I'm like, okay, they've already anticipated this is going to occur. So I sent them a message through Amazon. I need a product activation key. Also talked to Microsoft, and they said there's no product key on the system. So, I left it at that. Within 15 minutes they responded within 3 hours and 15 minutes, and they said, "What's your order number?" Which I thought was kind of funny because you have to select an order in your purchase to actually reach the seller. But again, I'll leave that one alone. I gave them the Amazon order number. Within 15 minutes, they had a product key to me. I entered the product key and the system was activated. So, I know you can buy product keys on eBay for like $15, $20, but the whole point was this shipped with Windows 11 Pro, and I entered my key. It was kind of funny because when they responded, they're like, please enter this key as quickly as possible, which means, they have a bunch of keys and, they won't be able to use this one again. So all's well that ends well. I give this a double thumbs up. It's a snappy little system. Whisper quiet. I had my ear next to it when I had it running for hours. Couldn't hear anything. It's as quiet, if not quieter, than the Chuwi. Again, very zippy, snappy response. No complaints. Everything worked like it was supposed to, minus the activation, which ultimately was resolved. So I have nothing but I'll call it a double thumbs up for this particular vendor. And it's it's sold by Morfine, so the actual people who make the PC. So good stuff. And this will be my Windows 11 emergency PC when things won't install on a Windows 10 emergency PC box. And it's kind of funny because on my home PC, which is running Windows 10, we built that PC so long ago I can't remember. It's been many years. I got notification from Microsoft that support for Windows 10 will end, meaning updates, will end on October, I think they said October 25th, sometime in October 2025. So a year and a half from now, which I really could care less about. So every few years, I'll just pick up, whatever the current version, and current I use with air quotes because this is not current. The OS is 3 years old, but the form factor is what's current. So I would stay up to date with some small emergency form factor because, when you talk about portability, this is beyond portable. And, you throw your little keyboard, your USB keyboard, wireless USB, Bluetooth keyboard and mouse. All you need is, and that comes with a HDMI cable. All you need is that monitor, and you're in business. So this, for the money, a good win. So take care.